everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. This is my third try. I'm gonna do it this time. Anyways, this is my weekly deck reviews. Thank you for joining me. If you are new here, then how this works is I typically review each Sunday the decks that I have been working with that week. Usually that is just one tarot deck and one oracle deck, unless for some reason I'm called to work with more than that, but that is not common. I try to sort of work exclusively with just those chosen decks. I work with decks that are new to my collection, and I work with decks that I already have in my collection. So it kind of just depends. I will revisit some of the same decks throughout this series, so you can always search my playlist to see if I have reviewed any of these decks before to see how my thoughts might have evolved or changed. That being said, I'm going to jump into this week. So this past week, I have been working with this Fairytale Tarot by Bott Studio. This is an out-of-print deck. It has been out of print for quite some time, and I lucked into a copy simply because there was a few decks that were incomplete, and there was a brief opportunity. Karen at Bott Studios and Karen and Alex had an opportunity to, these were missing a card. They had them in stock, but they were incomplete, and they had an opportunity to complete just those few remaining decks. And they sold out really fast. Like, they sent out an email that they were available, and then within, I think, a couple of hours of that email, they were all sold out, and I was just lucky enough to snag one. This one and Lisa Hunt's Fairytale Tarot had been on my wish list pretty much for years, and this one came up, so I snapped it up. So, having worked with it for a full week, and I believe I have worked with this one before, although I didn't give it a full week before, and I didn't give it a full week of dedicated time before because I didn't know the stories. I hadn't read the full guidebook that accompanies it, which I do not have next to me, and I'm so sorry. The guidebook is really good and very comprehensive, and also was sold separately. So this is a pricey little deck, I will say, and I do have a couple of beefs with it. So beefs are aesthetic. So I have to say, people tend to rave about Bott Studio's cardstock. This is one of their older decks. In fact, this was produced when they were called Magic Realist Press. So I don't think this is the same. In fact, I'm fairly confident this is not the same as what they're putting out now for cardstock, because I have the Bohemian Gothic also produced by them, and that one is a much nicer cardstock. This cardstock drives me a little bit batty. Like, it's very, very thin. Now, I have heard that even this cardstock is supposed to be extremely durable, but to be honest, it is really unpleasant to shuffle. I'm a rifle shuffler, and I will just, it's like a slappy shuffle. Like, it's slappies. Hold on. It's so flexible. It doesn't bridge very nicely. Let's see if I can show that on camera. Hold on. I'm going to do the rifle. I can't do that on camera because I need a surface, but, so I've just rifled. My mix is kind of okay, but then I try to bridge. It's just kind of, I don't love it, to be honest. I really don't love it. If cardstock is something that you are a stickler about, this would not be something that you would be, like, thrilled with, I feel like. I have heard that even this cardstock has some kind of a core that makes it stronger. I can't speak to that. It feels flimsy and thin to me. So I am not a fan of the cardstock. I also feel like just after this week, I have seen the backs look like this. And I have, just from working with this week, seen some chipping along the blue. You can even kind of see it if I bring it in close. And my nails, apparently. But you can also see the chipping on the card, even here, along the edges. And I do rifle, shuffle all of my decks, and I don't usually see that much wear that quickly. So I'm not confident these are going to hold up super well. Let's talk about the actual cards, though. There is so much depth and richness to this deck. There is a story, a fairy tale associated with every single card. These are fairy tales from the Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen. I probably pronounced that badly, I'm so sorry, but I know who he is. And also the Arabian Nights fairy tales. These are the original classic fairy tales, which means that they are not softened or sugar-coated in any way. This is Cinderella for the Empress. So a lot of these stories, the Billy Goat's Gruff, a lot of these stories were familiar to me from my childhood. I was actually inspired to pick up a digital copy of a collection of stories, of the original stories from the Brothers Grimm and Hans Christian Andersen and the Arabian Nights that I found on Kindle for like $2. So I picked that up so that I can dive deeper into these stories when I want to, but I will tell you that the guidebook that accompanies this is fantastic. In it, Karen, for every single card, every single one in the entire deck, she summarizes. She doesn't just maybe summarizing is a bad word. She basically tells the story. She tells an abbreviated version of that story so that it's a page to a page and a half in length. But the type in the guidebook, which I should have grabbed, I'm so sorry. The type in the guidebook is a little bit on the small side, so you get quite a density of information for each card. She tells the story, then she gives keywords, and then she talks about why she chose that particular story for that particular card and where we can look for those correlations. It's a lot. And because it's a lot, I actually found that this deck didn't feel as useful to me for quick, snappy readings. I had to sort of dismiss the story associations when I was reading for clients. I did some free readings, which you can see. I will link it in the cards, which shows up on that side, I believe. I will link it in the cards, my live reading day that I did with these cards. And I did find that I had to pull, for me, I felt like I had to pull 3 to 4 to get a good answer to a question, whereas some decks I feel like I get enough from one. This one, I had to look sort of at my tarot knowledge and sort of what that card typically means to me, and then occasionally would pull from the image, but it just wasn't as cohesive for those snappy readings for like multiple cards and like just kind of flowing with it as I wanted it to be. What I want to do with this deck, and what I realized throughout the week, I want to dive into the stories. And so this deck actually inspired me because there is so much depth to every single individual card. This deck inspired me to create a reading that I'm putting up on my Etsy shop. If you are in the Supportive Tarot Facebook group, then you already know because I have put up a giveaway for a reading to somebody in that group. The cutoff, by the time you see this, that will have already been done, so that I can test this reading. But essentially it will be a reading centered around one of these cards where I draw one to answer the querent's question, read the story, talk about how that can correlate, as well as pull some oracle cards and possibly some Lenormand cards as well. So I'm sort of developing the reading now, and we'll be testing it in this upcoming week, and then it will go up on my shop after that. But I think that will give me a way to dive deep into these cards, because in that way I think they're going to be really, really good. I just found that they weren't functional for me, as easily functional for me in those sort of quicker, snappier things, because there's just so much depth. I love the borders on the images. I shouldn't keep showing you the same one. I'm so sorry. I love the borders. They give you that storybook feel. But at the same time, like I said, I just feel like I really want to dive into the story with each card. And that would make a 5 or 6 card reading like take several hours because each story has so much depth and richness to it. So I am really excited to be working with these in the context of a particular type of reading, but I don't think I'll be rotating. Sorry, my nose always gets itchy when I do YouTube. I don't think that I will be rotating these into my regular use for daily draws and things like that. I think or for like bigger spreads. I do think I'm going to use them for a specific style of reading like I just shared. I'm being repetitive, so I'm going to move on. But in general, these are beautiful. They are full of meaning and depth, and I love that. But cardstock, no. And for the price of Baba Studios decks, typically, this feels expensive for the cardstock. But again, so much work and research and information comes along with these. If you get the accompanying guidebook, which I would, if you don't get the accompanying guidebook, at the very least, you should get a digital copy of the stories, like the original Grimm's stories, Hans Christian Andersen stories, Arabian Nights stories. Yes, you should do that for sure. But I would, if you ever get a chance to get this, and there's an opportunity to get the accompanying guidebook, get both. But that said, out of print, I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. I will briefly share, though, the really adorable Peggy bag that I have for this one. Isn't that fabric so cute with the castle and the unicorn? I knew it was for this deck right away. So yes, this will be pulled specifically for client readings of a particular variety, and that is about it. Oh, it is very nice that it came like signed and stuff, though. That was really cool. All right, I will finish putting that away after this video, so I don't have to keep you on camera for that. The Oracle deck that I have been working with this week also didn't behave the way that I expected it to, and I think I mentioned this on an Instagram post earlier this week, that neither of these decks functioned the way that I kind of expected them to function. So the Messenger cards by Sandra Kunz. This is what the guidebook looks like. You probably will have seen these on social media. They're not new to the scene. This is an independent deck. You can still get this from Sandra's Etsy shop, I believe. I picked these up at a local shop who was carrying them. That was Reflections Bookstore. If you're in the BC area and can can visit that store, because it is amazing. But I love that the owner there, Melissa, has been carrying some independent decks. It's really exciting, and I want to support that as much as possible. This deck is beautiful. Not my normal style. The colors are a little bit more muted than what I typically am drawn to. And I wouldn't say that I would pull this as an animal deck, even though it's got animals all over it, because it doesn't feel like that to me. There are a lot of repeated animals. You'll see butterflies and dragonflies in here multiple times. You'll see ravens in here multiple times. Not a fan of this particular spider image, but I will live because it's a powerful message. And here's the other thing. My normal criteria for the Oracle decks that I seem to get along with the best is when they have a title or a keyword that's either really expansive all on its own, or it has subtext that clarifies the message a little bit. This is neither. I do think that you could read these intuitively. This says the Keeper of Magic. Some of these are better at that than others, like Release the Past. This one could be read very easily intuitively. Know that it is done. This was my daily draw last time. I did a daily draw with these cards, which was today at the time I'm filming this. And this is kind of like a so mote it be sort of card, like may it be done. Enter the cave. So some of these could be read intuitively, maybe all of them. But what ended up happening for me when I worked with this deck this week was that the guidebook blew me away. And I feel like this was also the reason why I pulled the trigger on the purchase for this particular deck, because it's pretty simple construction. It's staple bound. Like, it's not exciting production wise, but the messages are so good and so centered around self-worth and self-love, which is totally my jam. I'll give you an example. Well, there's actually a card here called Self-Love. Let's see if I can find one that's a little bit shorter. Faith and Trust, the Dragonfly. Let me pull that out of here and show you, so you know what I mean, because it's pretty great. I also aesthetically really like that these cards are square. Like, I don't know why that's so satisfying, but it really is. And my other square deck, the Messengers of Light, I think it's called the Messengers, no, the Messages from the Light meditation deck. That deck is also square, and I really like that one as well. Okay, I should be showing you these as I flip, so that we can find 29 together, which is the one I want to read to you. I wish I could describe adequately just how powerful, yeah, here it is, Faith and Trust. So I'll read this one to you so you have an idea of what I mean, if I don't lose it, the page. I totally lost the page, you guys. I am no professional YouTuber, let's just put it like that. So if you're new here and you're like, holy cow, this girl needs to get her crap together, you are not wrong. Faith and Trust. We are stewards of our own energy, and we have a choice. We can focus on what is not working, or with faith and trust, we can follow our passion. Faith creates miracles, and trust allows situations to be and the freedom to transform into the truth. Faith lets the universe do its part in co-creating, and trust opens doors that we didn't even know existed. Faith and trust create the feeling that we already have what we desire, and brings it into our reality on a silver platter of illusion. It is all an illusion, so you may as well choose the illusion that you love. I don't know what it is. I don't usually like Oracle decks that make me rely on the guidebook, and this one feels like it kind of does. But the guidebook is full of these like really loving messages that are empowering and really just in line with the kind of messages I want to see. I don't know how else to describe it, to be honest. But I do know that this deck has also basically made it pretty clear to me, it's been a little bossy, that the way it wants to be used, or the way it wants to work with me, is drawing single cards and reading the messages. And I do think that's going to be something I'm going to be pulling into my practice, particularly when I need that like outside voice. Not in an affirmation way, in a message way, but I feel like I need the guidebook to work with this, and that's a good thing. Normally I would say that's not a good thing for me, but this one, it is a good thing. And this is there's another reading I'm working on designing right now around self-worth, and this is going to be one of the Oracle decks that's used in rotation with that particular reading, because the messages are so on point for that type of work. So very, very happy that I picked this up. It was a happy surprise, but it didn't operate like in the, again, neither of these decks operated well in just the like, pull a couple of cards. When I did my daily draws with both of these decks, I would draw from the tarot and then I would read the story and I would consider that and think about it. I did the same thing with this one. I would pull a card and then I would read the guidebook and then I would think about that. So these two were very, in that way, they were kind of almost oddly time consuming for me to use, and they weren't in line with how I would normally do a daily draw practice. I hope I'm making some sense. If I'm making no sense, please let me know down below. I will happily clarify. If I am making sense, please also let me know down below so that I know I am not babbling like a fool for no reason. So, they were both good. They were just good in a different way. So, happy to have them. Let's talk about what I'm working with next week. I think sometimes this is my favorite part of the video because I'm always like excited about the next thing I'm going to dive into. And I have every reason to be excited this week because I am going to be working with the Sasuraibito. Okay, my voice just went up like 4 octaves and I'm sorry for your ears. This is my January tarot purchase for my deck year rules. I'm trying to rein things in. This was the deck I ordered for myself for January, and it is, spoiler alert, I've already read the entire guidebook. Like literally the day that I got this, I was like in bed with my little reading light cover to cover, just read the whole damn thing. I've already gone through a bunch of the cards. Like, this is not my first impressions even yet because I've already done that. And I did it privately, which I'm doing a lot lately actually, because I feel like I enjoy giving you guys my more thought out impressions of decks than just my first impressions. But this is the current edition, which means that the guidebook actually fits in the box. The box is nice and sturdy. I will talk more about how this deck was to work with next week. Guidebook, super good. Super good. Love this. Talk more about that next week. The cardstock is like, it's like heaven. There's something about this cardstock that makes me really happy. Like, they're not sticky. They're slippery, but they're not slidey. Which if you've had slidey decks, you know what I mean? You put it on the table and then they just start sliding everywhere. This doesn't do that, but they're very smooth. Like you could fan these out like a pro on a table. They just are really nice. They're not matte. They're kind of glossy, actually. I mean, this is more than satin. I would say it's more gloss than satin. The backs might be more satin, but you can see I get quite a reflect. They're gold gilded. Shiny gold. But look at this. There's like no... It's a kind of like, it's like gloss light. They're a dream to shuffle. I'm just going to shuffle. I shouldn't be giving you my review yet because I haven't worked with them. These are the kinds of things I tell you, first impressions, but I get a beautiful bridge. Anyways, I'll rave more, I'm sure, at the end of the week, but I am so stoked to work with them this week. The images are beautiful on camera, but I will tell you right now, and I found out about this first from Danny on Danny Mystic's channel. Danny on her channel, Danny Mystic. That's what I meant to say. I'll link it down below, but she talked about how you can see the texture of the watercolor paper on these images, and I don't know if it will show on camera. It's really hard to get it to show. That is actually something I've discovered that I love in decks. When I can see the texture of that art paper on the card, it just does something to me. I don't even know. My Guardian Tarot has the same thing. You can see the texture of the canvas or the paper in the image, and it feels more real. I don't know what the right word is for it. But these images, I will tell you right off the bat, first impressions wise, definitely a favorite for Two of Cups. There's a couple cards in here. My favorite world card ever. I love that body image happening in there. My very favorite Nine of Cups ever of all time is in this deck. And this deck has, I think, a few of my favorite cards, to be honest. And of course, yeah, this is just, here we go. Look at this self-love and sensuality and just satisfaction with self that's so much deeper than what we normally see depicted in the Nine of Cups. And this is one of my deal breaker cards. This melts my heart. Like, in so many of the good ways, I can't. And there's a lot of cards that I just get. This was actually the card that tipped me over the edge to finally purchase this deck, because it's that coming up for air That's how I see this card, the Six of Swords. After the Five of Swords, we've had that defeat or that conflict and we feel beaten down. And then there's like coming up for that breath of fresh air. And this isn't necessarily how Stasia Burrington... You guys, I'm sorry. Stasia Burrington is the artist and author of this deck. That's not necessarily how she describes it in the guidebook, but it's what will forever stick in my mind. Because the first time I saw that, I was like, yep, that makes perfect sense. There's a lot of things about this deck that are amazing. We'll see how it reads. I have a really good feeling about this one. Hopefully I won't be wrong, and I will let you all know next week. That is enough babbling about what I'll be working with tarot-wise next week. I have to still steal the Peggy bag for this because I don't have one for it yet. So I'll be raiding her stash this weekend. Come on, lid. Okay, so the Sasuraibito, lovingly and affectionately called the Sassy Burrito by many in the community. Look at that gold. It makes me so happy. Okay, anyway. The Oracle deck, I have worked with this a little bit already. I actually pulled into this, I believe on this past Tuesday when I did some readings. I did pull a few cards from this deck because I had it close at hand. But this is the Amethyst Oracle by Jessica Bott. And you can still get this on her Etsy shop. She is also the artist behind the Idiosynchra deck, which you cannot get anymore, and I would love, especially now that I have this deck. I have a feeling this is going to just be beautiful next to the Sassy Burrito as far as being of a similar energy, I guess. But we shall see how I do with it. I have pulled a couple single cards here and there, like I said, in that free reading night that I did last Tuesday, and also just generally. I flipped through the images. I really like how clear this deck is. This card makes me so happy. Does anybody else look at this card? It says order. And look at that order. And doesn't it just, it's so satisfying to look at. It makes me really happy. I'm such a nerd. But anyways, I am really looking forward to working with this week. And I think that this will just harmonize really well with the Sasuraibito, but we will see. We will see. And it's a very different art style, so I don't know if I'll like the way they look next to each other, but I feel like they'll read together just fine. This one I also need a Peggy bag for. These two. This was a late 2018 purchase. I just seen too many images of it, and I just love it. So I'm excited to work with these two. They need bags. They need bags. Somebody poke Peggy for me because they need bags. Anyways, and the reading cloth, I haven't been working with these as much because Peggy made me a stunning tarot quilt. I will try to remember to link a link to when I went live around Christmas time. I think it was like Christmas Day or right around then, to talk about it and show it on the channel. But it's beautiful and it covers my whole like client reading table. So I use that a lot on the backgrounds of my client readings, but I'm going to work with this one this week. I just think the purple, it's like a deep purple velvet. My lighting is not, oh, there we go. If I turn it this way, you can kind of see the purple. It is really pretty and soft. And then it's got this really brightly colored side too. I'll probably mostly use the velvet, I think, this week, but we shall see. I'm going to tuck that into my tarot tote bag for the week and carry it around with me with my cards. Put it behind some readings. I did not do a lot of Instagram photos of the Fairytale tarot and the Messenger Oracle last week, mostly because I was spending so much time poring over the actual reading, like reading the stories, reading the guidebooks, that I just didn't, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just a throw cards on the table, like get that first intuitive hit and go. It was a little deeper than that, and I didn't photograph it. It just didn't feel the same. So this week you should hopefully be seeing some Instagram photos of my daily polls, and we'll see how we'll see how it does. I'll probably do some free readings with it on this upcoming Tuesday if I have or Monday rather. I don't know why I keep saying Tuesday. I've been going live on Mondays. Anyways, you'll probably see some live readings happening with those on Monday if I can get my self organized. But that is it for this week. Sorry for all the rambliness. It is the end of my week and I am like kind of done. But have a wonderful night or day or afternoon whenever you might be watching this, and I will talk to you all again very soon. Bye.